Hello, I'm Jonathan Smith from the Farm Carbon Calculator. In this video, I'm going to show you how to go about the process of calculating your carbon footprint and all the steps you need to take to get that carbon lens into your business. I'll start off by just going to the Farm Carbon Calculator itself. So you'll see that I've gone to the website. You'll find this online, very easy to use. And actually, I'm already logged in as a user. You can create a free account. Up in the top right-hand corner here, you'll see how to navigate. If I wasn't logged in, that would say log in or register, and you can just create a free account or then easily log into your own account. My reports is how you navigate to all the reports within your account, and you can create as many as you like. There's some useful resources on the page here, this video, some FAQs, and then a whole bunch of resources on the resources tab here as well. And some links through to our Farm Carbon Toolkit. But before we get started on the actual calculator itself, I'm going to take you through the process of how you actually assimilate the data, because this is a very important phase. So we'll go to the data collection spreadsheet, which is available free on our website. And this is a really handy tool just to be able to get all the data in the right format and know what you're looking for before you actually go to the online calculator. Now, this process will take a very number of time, depending on the complexity of your business, how well organized your records are, and whether you've done this sort of thing before. It might look a bit daunting to start with, but trust me, it gets easier as you've done it at least once, and you know where all the data is and where to get hold of it. Okay, so there's a few golden rules here. First of all, that all this data is appropriate to your business over the past 12 months, except for capital items like buildings and machinery, which is back over the last 10 years. And then you get as much data as you can. And we've color coded these the boxes into red, green, and yellow. So red is you should fill it in definitely if you have the data. Green is best practice, and the yellow only occurs to certain areas. Okay, so going through the spreadsheet, first of all, is the farm details. This is what it will ask you when you start to create a report. Then you just go in through the sections. So as you can see here on the fuels page, we ask that you definitely put in data on things like diesel. And you simply in here will put something like, 5,000 litres a year of diesel. The electricity you've used about 10,000 kilowatt hours. And then down, you haven't used any gas or solid fuels. Maybe you've done you've got a van in the business perhaps, and maybe you've done sort of 10,000 miles there. Okay, so you start to record all your data, you know exactly where it is. And the order in which this appears in the spreadsheet is exactly the order that it appears in the calculator. So go through all the different tabs down the bottom here and put in all the data that's relevant to your business. And when you've done it, make sure obviously you save it, and then we'll go back to the actual calculator itself. Okay. So logging into the calculator, we're already logged in. We'll go to my reports up there, and that'll take us through to the account. These are all fictitious reports that I've set up, but they're useful as an example. You can create as many as you like in here, and you can go back and see them and edit them at any time. Just to be clear on the functionality, if you click on that, the name, it will take you through to the results page. If you click on edit, you'll be able to go to the data entry section. Delete obviously will delete the whole report, so only do that if you really need to. You can't get it back. And copying the report will copy the entire report and create a new one, which is quite handy if you want to do sort of take last year's report, copy it across for this year, and then work out what's changed. That's a handy function. If you want to create something new, click on the Add New Report, and that will allow you to basically go through and create a brand new report, filling in all the details about your farm here. Okay, but we'll cancel that for now, and we'll go into one that I've done already. So let's take the example farm. We'll go into the edit section, so I can take you through the process of how to enter data. Now, I've already populated this with data. In terms of navigation, you'll see that you can edit your farm details here. The categories, so these are the different pages that were on the spreadsheet here. You can click on any of these at any time. You can work your way through. You can basically fill this in any order you like, but I suggest doing it sort of left to right in a sequential way. Is fairly logical. When you want to add some new data into here, a new item, simply click on the Add New button, and that'll take you through to a section which will ask you what you want to put in. So in this example, we'll put in that diesel. So we'll select liquid fuels, next drop down, red diesel, and it asks you for the quantity in litres there, and we'll put in 5,000. Click Save, and then immediately that'll take you through to the data entry page. Now there's quite a lot of entries on here already, but we'll scroll right down to the bottom, and sorry, it's still loading, and that will tell you exactly how much CO2e, that's carbon dioxide equivalent, has been created from that item. Okay, so all the way down the bottom, 16.96 tons of CO2e. If you want to edit that at any time, you click that. If you want to delete the item, click that. And down the bottom here tells you the total for all the fuels. Okay. This donut chart will tell you where the emissions are. And if you hover over that, that'll tell you the red diesel actually is the largest source of emissions. I've already put some diesel in before. And if you go through all the sections, it will tell you where your emissions are for the fuels part. So that's a nice visual representation. You can understand exactly where your hotspots are in terms of your biggest causes of greenhouse gas emissions. Over on the right-hand side here, you'll see that all the emissions sections are totaling up here. And we can see here that the inputs, so that's things like fertilizers and sprays, are actually creating the biggest amount of carbon, followed by livestock and land use. So that would be things like soil organic matter losses. And that totals it up in this table here. So this is the section, tons of CO2e. And then down the bottom here, it's also got the offsets. That's mostly carbon sequestration. So once you've done all that data entry, go through to the results part. And you can click on that any time. This automatically saves, so no problems there. And you've got a number of different views here. So we'll start off with the summary tab. Okay. This tells you carbon balance. What are the emissions? What's the sequestration or the offsets? And what's the carbon balance? In this case, the carbon balance is 233 tons of CO2e. Okay. We've now got some key performance indicators, tells you the carbon balance overall, then per hectare, per ton of product, fuel use per hectare, milk, kilos of CO2e per kilo of fat and protein corrected milk, fertilizer emissions, and water use. And then we'll go further down. It tells you essentially a graphical representation of where all your emissions are and your sequestration. So you can get a feel for where the biggest emissions are and the areas that are sequestering the most on your farm. And then in another form, it gives you that in the table in tons of CO2e and as a percentage of total emissions or total sequestration. Carrying on down, it gives you these emissions by scope 1, 2, and 3. So these are kind of direct. Direct is scope 1, scope 2 and 3 are indirect, outside of scopes, and then by greenhouse gas in CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So if you really want to understand and drill down into where those emissions are and what they're made up of, you can go there. Down the bottom, it'll tell you something about the yield of all your crops and your livestock, and then a summary of your farm details at the bottom. And here's all the completed sections. So once each section is completed in the data entry, you can click complete report, mark as complete, and it'll fill it in here so that you know that you've completed every section as necessary. Okay, quick whiz back up the top. Full results means that you can go into any amount of detail that you want to see. So anything that you've entered in the calculator, it'll tell you exactly what you've entered here and the tons of CO2e here and the percentage of your overall emissions. Okay. This confidence is how much confidence we've got in the emissions. And then a link through to the Farm Carbon Toolkit where you can get advice for that particular issue, free advice. We've also got a nitrogen balance calculator. This will tell you the total amount of nitrogen in and out of the farm. So that's very handy if you need to understand what nitrogen is doing on your farm. And then there's a benchmarking tool which will basically place your figures against an industry average, either the total emissions or the carbon balance. Going back to the other functions, you've got an option here to edit your data. So go back into the data entry section at any time. You compare to any other report within your within My Reports, and that will compare all the key emissions, sequestration, hotspots, which can be quite handy, especially year on year or maybe against a neighboring farm. You can download as a PDF or a CSV file, and you can also share your report with others using that link. Just be aware that when you do that, anybody can see that report unless you delete the report. So be careful who you share it with, but it can be a very useful feature. So that's a very quick whiz through of the carbon calculator. As I say, there's lots of advice on the website. You can always contact us if you've got any specific questions, and hopefully you find the process really, really useful and come back and use the calculator year after year to actually understand your carbon footprint and how it's changing. I hope you find it really, really useful.